Now, following that, we had an additional question, which was things about the COVID-19 world. So basically, we asked the students, and this was a compulsory question, what factors would you need to be in place to feel safe and comfortable to travel overseas? Now, we had a really good, again, a really good sample once again. And as you can see, and this also is very similar to what we saw in September, but 64% of the students are now saying that if I'm going to go overseas, I want to go to a country with low levels of COVID-19. Now, this in comparison with September actually increased quite significantly. From 54 in September, now we're talking about 64% of the students. So once again, this is the changing destination, thinking about if I'm gonna go, I'm gonna be safe. And I don't know if this is only the students sharing the response or their parents of the students basically saying, no, 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 if you're gonna go, it has to be a safe place. And makes complete sense, but I think it's important that we need to consider and a very relevant response for where we are moving forward in 2021. Now, because we know that destination is such an important topic in the decision-making process of a student, we decide to incorporate, as I said before, some questions related to travel bubbles. We explain to students that there is a possibility that the Australian government will have some travel bubbles. And if that's the case, how important it is for them. So we have the option of that's not important, very important, fairly important, and so on. Well, surprisingly, well, not surprisingly, 75% of the students said that having these travel bubbles will be fairly or very important. Once again, it's a very strong message of how important will be just to having those safety procedures in place to move overseas. And I think it's important to have as also a way in which we can actually move forward in 2021. Now, we receive a lot of feedback from the September survey in regards to asking students what do they think it would be a safe place or what it is. So we put a list of countries and we asked them, okay, if there is a travel bubble in for any of these countries, which ones you will go? Nearly 72% of students, they said that they will go to New Zealand, which talking to the Learning Abroad Network, they basically were saying that that was not even in the radar for a lot of students. Well, now 72% are actually considering that, which I think is also interesting because they are not, the students are not as picky now. I think that after everything that we experienced in 2020, now they understand that any place that you can go abroad will actually give you that experience that they are seeking. Because I think this back in 2019, it will be like, New Zealand is very similar to us. Why should I go? Well, things have changed and the preference have changed for students. Now, Japan and Singapore and Canada follow New Zealand. Japan with nearly 50% of students, very close Singapore, Canada, and Singapore. South Korea, Pacific Island nations, China, and the United Kingdom, they are a little bit lower on the list. And as you can imagine, we have other countries like Germany and the US, very, very small number of students considering this, even if there is a travel bubble. So that was a very interesting response from students.